So I want to talk about some of the notebook pages that I have posted and just some of the ways that I teach some of the skills with decimals. And there are a few things that I found that really help my students understand decimals and get, a better grasp on it. Decimals can be really abstract and hard for kids to understand. So one thing that I have found that's very helpful is to use hundreds grids and base 10 blocks to help them kind of visualize what a decimal is and what it means. So first, we talk about how one whole is having the full thing shaded in. So this could be like one piece of paper. So we have the whole paper, and so I have a whole. And we talk about how a tenth means that that paper is cut into 10 pieces, and I only have one of them. So 1/10 means that I have one out of the 10 that it takes to make a whole. And then I show them how on a hundreds grid, 1/10 is the same thing as 10 hundredths. And with the base 10 blocks, I'll have them draw it on their papers. So this is my one whole, that's a tenth, and then that's a hundredth. And so we talk about how a hundredth means that our paper or our whole, whatever we're working with, is split into 100 pieces, and I only have one of them. So a hundredth means it's split into 100 tiny little pieces that are all the same size. And finally, a thousandth means it is split into 1,000 pieces, and I only have one of them. And so one thing that I've found that helps them understand it is like actually taking a piece of paper and cutting it into 10 pieces and like trying your best to make them equal. But I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but having them see, okay, you have a whole paper, so you have one whole, and then you take that paper and you cut it into 10 pieces, and so you make all those tenths, and then taking those tenths and breaking it down to a hundredth, and then even taking that hundredth down and breaking it down to 1,000th, and keeping that visual out so they can see it. And then they can see the connection between like that piece of paper that you showed them and the base 10 blocks. So then you can always refer back and say, remember, we had a whole piece of paper. Remember, we had a tenth of the piece of paper. We had a hundredth of the piece of paper. So that's how I like to help them visualize it and kind of see. And I like to use these pages for them to practice shading in and building it. So then we talk about how this one is in the ones place. So that means that if I was shading this, I would shade in a whole piece of paper. And then that 5 is in the tenths place. So that was when I had 1/10 or 1/10. That was when I took my piece of paper and I cut it into 10 pieces. And those are those long strips. So if I have 5 in the tenths place, then that means I color in 5 of these. And that 7 is in the hundredths place, so that means I have 7 of these little boxes. So I found that having them shaded in helps, and always going back to what's the place value of it. And then I even like to just have them draw it without the hundreds grids there to help them. So if it was 2 3/10, that 2 is in the ones place, so that means I have 2 full pieces of paper. And then that 3 is in the tenths place, and that means my piece of paper has been broken into 10 pieces. And so we have 3 of these tenths of the paper. And I know it's not perfect, it's not to scale, but like it helps them. So if I had something like this, 3 9/100ths, 3's in the ones place. I don't have any in the tenths place, so I don't have any of these tenths in this one. But I do have 9/100ths, which means that I had the 9 little tiny pieces when we broke the paper into 100 pieces. And this really helps them visualize it, and then this helps them build their understanding for like the next skill that comes. But I just give them a lot of practice with drawing the drawing the decimals using the base 10 blocks, or even getting out the base 10 blocks and building it. But I have found that if they can draw it, then it helps a lot when it comes to comparing decimals. So let me jump back for a second. So if I had these two numbers, 2 6/10 and 2 24/100, a lot of times when the kids first see it, they just go, oh, 2 24/100 is bigger, the number's longer. But when I have them draw it out, they're able to see that's not correct and why. So on 2 6/10, we have 2 in the ones place, so I have 2 full pieces of paper, and I have 6 in the tenths place, so I have 6/10. And then I don't have any hundredths, so I stop there. On 2 24/100, and I have them stack it up like this and draw it so they can see place value by place value. So I also have 2 in the ones place, so I draw 2 full pieces of paper. And in this one, I have 2/10. So I draw out my 2/10. And then I have 4 in the hundredths place, so I draw 4 little hundredths. And now the kids can start seeing the connection, like, oh, this one had 2 holes, and 2 6/10 has 2 holes, 2 24/100 has 2 holes, so that's tied. Neither one's bigger there. But then if I go to the tenths place, 6/10 is quite a bit more than 2/10. So that means 2 6/10 is greater. So I really like them to draw it, and then it helps them understand why we can use shortcuts like this notebook page that I have them do. Because then they're seeing that with 3 1/10 and 3 and 105 thousandths, we're doing essentially the same thing. We're taking and lining it up by place value. So we line the numbers up by place value. And we fill in any gaps with zeros. So, and then we compare place value by place value. And so if we were doing it with the base 10 blocks, I have 3 holes, and I have 3 holes, 3 full pieces of paper. On this one, they both have 1/10, so neither one is bigger yet. Neither one has any hundredths, and then there are 5 thousandths. And sometimes I just do 5 little dots to show the thousandths. And then they can see, oh, 3 and 105 thousandths is bigger. So I've just found that it's very helpful to have them actually draw it out with the base 10 blocks, or build it with the base 10 blocks, either one, but just making sure that they really understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then if they can do this, drawing it with models or base 10 blocks, then it helps them when they get to adding and subtracting decimals. So it just all builds, and it helps them understand a little bit better.